Hello, everyone. Well, there it is. This entire time we were saying, you can't stop a war, you can't end the war unless everybody involved is considered, and you can't just tell somebody, just stop invading another country. And there you have it. Putin rejected talks with Zelensky. But the fun part is why he rejected talks with Zelensky. Let's take a look at that. Oh, he's so concerned about democracy in Ukraine. He doesn't want to talk to Zelensky because there haven't been any elections in Ukraine since the invasion. Oh, gosh, who could have thought Putin is so concerned about elections? I mean, this is the guy who has been in power now 25 years, quarter of a century. And elections in Russia basically are just for show. The results are preordained. Everybody knows this. People show up. They realize they might as well not show up. Anywho. Also, notice he doesn't mention why there haven't been elections. And I can tell you why. So, as you might understand, having probably participated in elections yourself, in order to conduct elections, you need to set up polling places. Places where people would show up in rather large numbers. And how do you propose to do that when their cities are getting bombed every day? I don't like the fact that Ukraine hadn't had an election either. I don't like it. And I'm not fond of Zelensky as a leader. I don't think he's a very good leader. He has his moments, but he's not my favorite. But I understand the safety concerns. Stop maybe bombing Ukraine and we'll have an election. We actually talked about this with my parents, and, my dad pointed out to me, he said, can you imagine? Right now they're targeting places like schools, offices, kindergartens, hospitals. So basically any place where there is bound to be a concentration of people during the day. And then at night they target people's homes. Can you imagine the slaughter they could organize on election day? Yeah. That. At the same time, North Korea, in addition to sending cannon fodder for Russian army, sent more than 100 artillery systems to be used against Ukrainian forces in the near future. The only hope there is that a lot of the stuff that North Korea had supplied has been very low quality and didn't work properly. So I'm kind of hoping that, a lot of those artillery systems just basically blow up on the ground. Speaking of North Koreans, so again, CNN hasn't been my favorite lately, but this is a pretty decent article talking about North Korean soldiers operating on Russia's behalf in the war in Ukraine. And this is the brutal reality. There appears to be basically complete disregard for their own lives and the lives of others among the North Korean soldiers, which is a mark of basically a fanatically devoted army, which is scary and tragic at the same time. As we said before, according to the testimony of North Korean soldiers, they didn't even know they were going to war, or at least many of them didn't know they were going to an actual, live, honest-to-God war. They thought they were going in for military training, and then they were dropped smack dab in front of some very angry Ukrainian soldiers. And so we keep hearing stories of them finishing off their own wounded, committing suicide rather than being taken. That is insane. So far, we've only had a confirmed report of those 2 North Korean soldiers that were taken alive by Ukrainian military, and they were taken for medical treatment and then questioned using interpreters. So there's only 2. Because, like I said, they finish either each other off or they finish themselves off. So the word of just 2 soldiers is not going to hold up. And it's very possible that their testimony is not even going to reach people of North Korea because of the strictly controlled information flow back and forth. But, once again, I'd like to emphasize, friendship with Russia had never ended well for those involved. And this is a prime example. Russia has turned into basically this big cancerous growth on the face of the earth. And for those who want to be its allies, they'll take what you got. They'll use you, and then they will discard you. Cue in Syria. For those who still don't believe that what's going on in Ukraine is real and continuous, there is another documentary coming up by the same filmmaker who did the documentary about Mariupol. It is called 2,000 Meters to Andreevka. There is an interview with him on the Associated Press website. His name is Mstislav Chernov, and his previous documentary title was 20 Days in Mariupol. So if you are interested in this, he went back. God, brave man. He went back and filmed another documentary for you to show you what it's like at the front lines. The title of the documentary emphasizes basically the scale of it all. I mentioned many times is that, yes, it's true that the Russian troops are moving, but they're moving at an agonizingly slow pace because Ukrainians are fighting for every foot of Ukrainian soil. And so the title basically says it all. 2,000 meters is 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles. So not a very great distance, walking distance. And what he talks about is what is packed into that distance when you're fighting a war. There's been another Russian oil refinery struck by multiple Ukrainian drones. Right now, this is only stated by Ukraine's military intelligence services. I tend to believe them because, once again, we have lots and lots and lots of eyewitness videos. Now, there were strikes delivered in several Russian regions. This particular one is actually fairly far in to the Russian territory, this particular oil depot. So here are some of the videos. And you could probably just Google Lukoil refinery of Tsovo, Nizhny Novgorod, and look up. Because, like I said, this is one of the weak spots in the whole Russian conspiracy to cover up what's actually happening in this war. They can't control social media. And this refinery is located around 800 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. 800 kilometers is 500 miles. So that is pretty far in. And as I mentioned before, there's multiple effects. Of course, there's the immediate effect of impacting Russia's military objects. And then there is the psychological effect of knowing that these drones might appear anywhere at any time, which is a very useful tool to have in your military toolbox. More to come.